I took my first line of cat at 13 years old, and I instantly became addicted to cat. And I began stealing, robbing, housebreaking, hijacking. I sold my kids' clothes, my baby's clothes. I sold my wife's clothes. I sold our TV. One night she came home and the washing machine was gone. I was meant to go out and I was meant to draw blood. I kept praying to God, Lord, please make a way out of this. Whatever you do, make a way out of this. I was outside a club, the club I was gonna get my victim from. Somebody put his hand around my shoulder, and it was a friend from primary school. And he said, I can see you're not okay, let me just take you home. My name is Quinton, I'm 25 years old. I'm from Florida. My story begins in church actually. So I was always taught about God, you know. But on the other hand, in my area where I stayed, there was a lot of drugs and crime and things like that was going on around me. And so I decided to leave the house, which my mother always told me not to do. But I decided to do it anyway. So I went to go play outside, and of course, first day I went outside, I met the wrong group of friends. I took my first line of cat at 13 years old, and I instantly became addicted to cat at 13 years old. I started stealing to support my habit because I was like full-blown addict. And I found myself in a rehab facility at the age of 13, my first rehab. I was there for about 6 weeks. I came out of that rehab facility, and 2 days later I was back on cat. This was about 14 going on 15, I was back in rehab. This time it was for 3 months. When I came out of rehab, I went back to school and I started failing. I was in grade 9 at the time, and I started failing miserably at school, and which really dropped my confidence a lot. And the only place I found that confidence was in drugs, you know, and acting out at school and trying to be the popular kid I never was. I found myself alone, completely alone in this addiction where I didn't even have friends. In my area as well, the friends I did have, which I started out with, the party friends, they also separated themselves from me because I was stealing from them as well. And in those 3 years, I was in and out of jail, arrested for possession. And the fourth time I was arrested at the age of 17. And at this time, I dropped out of school because I had a kid in school. So I dropped out thinking I'm going to work for him, whatever. That never worked out. So at this time, my lawyer told me never to call him again because he was tired of bailing me out. I got arrested again and at 18 years old, and this time it was more serious. I had no lawyer. When I got into Krugersdorp prison, I spoke to a few guys, and a few guys took me under their protection, a gang in prison. And when I got out, my whole mindset was changed. I was a different person. I became a cruel person, and at this time I was introduced to crystal meth. And crystal meth took me from, I was already in a dark world, but crystal meth took me to complete darkness. That little light that was in me was now dead. There was no more light inside of me. And I began stealing, robbing, housebreaking, hijacking. All of this was for the gang I was initiated with in prison. I met somebody, you know, she met me in my worst state. She took me sort of out of that life, but that life was still a big part of me. You know, we ended up having a kid, we got married. Once again, I turned to what I always used to do. I used to go back home. I sold my kids' clothes, my baby's clothes. I sold my wife's clothes. I sold our TV. One night she came home and the washing machine was gone. You know, and that was it for her. Next day when I woke up, she was gone. She had left me. I was left in this house alone. She had taken everything, my kid as well. I was left with nothing. My firstborn had already been taken away from me. Now my secondborn and my wife had left me. And I ran back to the only people I knew who still had love for me, which was my parents. I ran back to them, I asked them for help. At this time I couldn't even walk because I was starving. I never ate for days. You know, I was broken. They took me in, they got me help once again. This was like the 5th time I was now in rehab. They got me help again. I went to a secular rehab, 12-step rehab. I was there for 3 months. After 3 months, I thought everything would change. My wife would take me back, she would love me again, she would see me as the man she met, which obviously she had seen a different side of me, so she wasn't so keen on taking me back instantly. She had to see the change. I didn't accept that, so in my fit of rage, I turned back to the one thing I knew I could find love in, which was my drug, crystal meth. I turned back to it, and this time I fell 7 times harder. I fell into a demonic state of mind. I used to think sadistic things, which in turn made me heartbroken in a sense where I couldn't stay at home anymore. I was afraid of what I would do to my folks. I was afraid of what I would do to myself in my parents' house. I was constantly having suicidal thoughts. So I packed my stuff and I went to go stay in a squatter camp. I stayed there for about 3 months, and in this time, I was made to do horrible things in order to feed us, to feed our drug habit, just to survive on a daily basis. And through all this time, through all this darkness, there was always something inside of me saying, this is not you. You're meant to be ministering to people. And I knew that at an early age already, I knew that. But I kept shutting that voice out. I kept saying, no, I'm worthless. This is the only life for me. And one night, I was given a mission per se by these guys for my final initiation, whereby they had given me a weapon and I was meant to go out and I was meant to draw blood. On my way there, it was the first time in many years I started praying. I kept praying to God, Lord, please make a way out of this. Whatever you do, make a way out of this. Halfway on my journey, I was robbed. I was robbed by a couple of guys. And I saw it, I was badly beaten. At first I saw it as punishment, but when I was sitting on the side of the pavement, it was raining. I was outside the club I was gonna get my victim from. Somebody put his hand around my shoulder, and it was a friend from primary school. And he said, I can see you're not okay, let me just take you home. And instantly I knew this was God. He saved me. And he took me home, and that morning, my parents, they let me in the house, and that morning when we woke up, I spoke to them and I said, I need help. I'm gonna die in these streets. And they said to me, we're gonna get you help, but you need God. And that for me was confirmation that this was from God. So I had asked him to please find a faith-based program, which they did. They found Redemption Rehab. When I came here, as soon as I got out the car to come and see the place, a voice inside of me, the same voice that used to tell me I'm better than this, the same voice said to me, you're home. This is where I'm gonna meet you. I've been here for about 4 months now. Since then, my wife and I have reconciled. My parents, we have reconciled. My firstborn, I've seen him again. I'm allowed to see him again. My secondborn comes and visits me. Everything is good within my family. Everything I wanted is good within my family. And since then, I've received prophetic word and confirmation that my work is in ministry. And not just any ministry, ministry with youth. Because God allowed me, I won't say God took me through, but God allowed me to take myself through that life at such a young age, at 13 years old. I believe that that's where my work is, with youth, with the young. So my story began with light, went through a dark time, brought to a place where my light shines brighter than ever. And not only shines brighter than ever, but through that light I can see my future and my purpose. And that for me, that's everything for me.